Good morning, folks. November Charlie 4 X-Ray Lima NC4XL, North Carolina for extreme lovers. I thought I'd do a little reach out to the followers of mine that participate in Parks on the Air. That's one of my biggest fun things to do in amateur radio, but also to all amateur radio operators out here. And the reach out is simply this. You and I have an opportunity to be an Elmer or a mentor to many folks. Let's see if I can put it a little bit more explicit. In my faith, if I were to run around, cuss and swear and drink, and you see me and hear me talk about going to church all the time, you would have a bad opinion. So the Bible I shared with you would make you not want to be part of that Bible. Same thing with unfeeding my cats. Same thing with amateur radio. How you and I conduct ourselves, let's say on the air, in contact with people in QSOs, and how we teach others by example, meaning, and my eyes have gotten bad, so yes, I am now a cheater in my opinion for me, myself, and I. I have to have somebody build my antennas, but I trust somebody who does a fantastic job at an affordable rate. But the thing is, I will and you will and can or could, if you want to, take someone or some bodies under your wing and share amateur radio. I'm in my 70s, folks. Amateur radio is totally different today than it was back in the 60s and the 70s and the 50s before I was even being worried about. How to build antennas. Simple half-wave antennas. Or how to build a 2-meter antenna. J-pole. What is the best technique you have for soldering or crimping coax? How do you measure the impedance from an antenna, whether it's in the car or on a fixed station? How? It's an important question to a lot of people who are wondering, what is ham radio? What is amateur radio? The other side of it is sharing all the different places that one will talk to on the air via a little 5-watt transmitter or a 100-watt transmitter or a 1500-watt transmitter, whether it's a wire in the tree at 50 feet or a 3 or 4 element beam rotatable or a hex beam. You and I are the only Bible, so to speak, for people to see in amateur radio by how we carry ourselves and what we offer to other people. In our local community, on our CFARS page, we also have folks that have allowed themselves to be part of the mentor program. And what that means is when new folks in town or new folks to amateur radio who just got their license have questions on how would you, what is, we there as a club participate in reaching out to those people and answering some of the questions so that they don't feel lost. And what I'm asking folks to do for POTA, and this is for ham radio, but for POTA, for many folks who are new, there's a lot of questions, and folks are afraid to put stuff on Facebook because there are some people who get very rough in their answers instead of trying to provide a positive answer to their question. They always say, just go read the doc file. Many of us, believe it or not, there's many of us, and I'm going to pat myself on the back, who will take the time to send a direct message to somebody and say, hey, give me a call. I'll try to answer your questions. I'm nobody special, folks. I'm just an old man that likes what I do in amateur radio. I fell in love with Parks on the Air. It gives me a chance to not join a clique and a private party, but it gives me a chance to expand my wings out into many different areas and learn many different techniques and share people-to-people communication. Something that when I walk outside, people can say, you're a ham radio operator. You're that guy that does that Parks on the Air stuff that I see going around. That's what being a mentor or a Elmer is all about. We, that's you and me, have an opportunity to answer questions that people might have and share some of the things that we have done. Not that they are right, but the things that we have learned by. One of the most wasted libraries we have here in our country is the nursing homes or the assisted living homes. Those are two places nobody goes. I don't want amateur radio to be that way. I'm going to give you a real quick story how I got started, and I'm going to shut up. If you're still watching the video, if you think somebody could use it, tell them about it. I'm not asking for a like or a share or a subscribe. That's not what I'm doing. But you and I, you on the other side of this video, and I have an opportunity every day to promote a hobby that I think is awesome. And when Big Brother shuts down the internet, so what? When Big Brother shuts down the electricity, so what? We still have the means to communicate, whether it's local in this or using whatever we can make an antenna from and source it by solar power or battery power and still communicate. So I'm mouthing off at Andrews Air Force Base to a group at a CB radio club. Yeah, 11 meters. And everything I had been modified. And a gentleman come over, he says, you ought to do things legally and get into something like ham radio. I said, what's ham radio? He said, why don't you come on over to my place? That's what he said. He didn't even know me. Why don't you come over to my place and let me show you? So he invited me over to his residence and showed me radio equipment that I drooled over. He showed me Morse code. He explained Morse code. And back then, you had to have 5 words per minute to get your novice ticket. He said, I'd like to teach you if you'd like to learn it. And in 4 weeks, 1 month of twice a week, I would go to his place. And he sat down at the table. His wife made me coffee. I guess that's where I got started. I don't know. and we proceeded to learn Morse code. And when I got to where I could have fun with it, meaning I was understanding those dits and those das that may become words, he says, I think you're ready to take your test for your novice license. And that's the end of that story, because in January of 1978, I went to Washington, D.C. We had to go there. We didn't have online, and we didn't have VEs come to you. Washington, D.C., and took my novice test and passed it and got my first call, KA3 Alpha Victor Papa. And since then, we've moved up the ladder. We're one of the retired advances. We passed the extra theory, but not the extra code speed of 20 words per minute. Elmer, mentor, you put that package together. You as a club, you as an individual, have an opportunity to teach. There's the difference. Not memorize. And I don't mean to be ugly when I say that, but to teach amateur radio. Anybody can memorize a bunch of words and pick out the right answers. It's experience that makes you much more proficient in what you're doing. So again, for any of my followers, I thank you. I seriously do. If you would like to reach out to folks to give them an opportunity to learn, it's not how many folks you reach out to. Take one or two. Take a grandchild. Take your neighbor's family member who might be interested where your neighbor isn't, but they have a family member that is interested in what you're doing, and feed them a little bit of amateur radio. NC4XL, North Carolina, for extreme lovers. So I'm not just Dom, the darling old man. My days are short, and our future in amateur radio could be affected by what you take an opportunity to do. May God bless.